What drove you to keep pushing? Was there anything that just kept you going?
Yeah, how deep do you want to get?
Let's do it, man.
So this week we had Landon Donovan on the Courageous podcast. Superstar, athlete, soccer player, badass human.
Dude, he was that was awesome. I mean, for me, by the way, I remember exactly where I was when he scored that Algeria goal in 2010, and to have him relive it on the show, I kind of fanboyed a little bit.
Yeah, you did. Well, he's just a cool guy. I mean, he shared everything. Nothing was off limits. And he has a pretty fantastic story. He changed the game of soccer here in the U.S.
Yeah, I think you're going to like the episode. Hopefully you can give us a couple minutes, give us an hour. Come listen to the Courageous podcast. Can I geek out and do like the Landon Donovan bio real fast?
I mean, it will be real fast, so it's fine. Go ahead.
I could read it slow. Now let's see. Landon Donovan is a former American soccer player. Played for the Galaxy. Played for our national soccer team. You've been a captain of the soccer team of the national team as well, I believe. Correct.
Correct.
How many caps?
I had in the 150s. I don't know exactly.
You are a fellow Pisces. Correct?
I am.
Born on March 4th or March 2nd. He now lives in San Diego, California, and is the coach of the San Diego Loyal in the United Soccer League, who are, by the way, right now in his first season ever as a coach, sitting at the top of the tables at 1-0-1. Is that correct?
Cancel the season, baby. They can never take that away.
Should we tell them that you have one game on everybody, or should we leave that part out?
It's not a points per game table. It's just a points table.
Okay. Thanks for coming on here, man. We really appreciate it, Landon. So how's quarantine standard time going for you?
It's somewhere between very grateful that I am not, or nobody in my family or nobody I know is not in the hospital or on a respirator, and super miserable, defining the fine line between loving your kids and liking them and wishing you were back out doing what you love. So somewhere in that mix.
And when you say doing what you love, I mean, for you, it's been a bit of a transformation, right? Because you've been the guy scoring goals on the pitch, and now you're basically leading the charge from just outside the pitch, correct?
Yeah, so for a long time, my passion was in playing, right? And getting to do that. That was a mostly selfish passion until the very end of my career, where I got a lot more out of helping other people and watching other people win and lift trophies and get better. And so I realized that would be a pretty good way to continue into the second phase of my life, which is, I call it the selfless phase. When you have three young kids, and then you're managing 26 a little bit older kids, but professional athletes every day, it is about as selfless as you can get. But it feels really good, so I'm enjoying it now.
Is it hard to watch from the sidelines because you're such a great player? I mean, how is that different, being on the sidelines versus being out on the pitch?
It's gradually, when preseason started and the games were going, I was pretty relaxed. I would sit through most of the game and just sort of analyze and observe. As we got into our first match against Las Vegas on March 7th, for most of the game, I was pretty relaxed and sitting. And then when we got to the Tacoma game, the last about 20 minutes, I found myself standing the whole time because I was so anxious and excited to try to help the team in any way possible. It's definitely a different feeling. The majority of your work now as a coach goes in Monday through Friday, right? And then on Saturday, the biggest difference is Saturday as a player, it was all preparation. What you ate, how you sleep, getting your body moving, preparing mentally. And as a coach, there's nothing left to do. You are literally, for the most part, powerless. And it's did the work during the week work or not? Is it going to come to fruition or not? And there's not a whole lot you can do. So much different feeling.
So is your diet terrible now?
Well, between kids and then not exercising as much anymore, yeah. I mean, I eat like the cold pancakes at the end of breakfast or like runny eggs after they've been eaten, um, that kind of stuff. But in some ways, it keeps you a little bit thinner because you just don't get to sit down and eat as much.
I think I need that diet. I definitely could. Okay, well, when this whole thing's over, yeah, I'm gonna see how I can lose a couple pounds here. I definitely need it.
We've all put on a few, yeah, that's for sure.
Can you take us? Can you just take us back through your journey as a professional? What it was like to climb through the ranks and going from unknown to really playing at the very highest level. What was that journey like?
Sure. So, for a little background, I grew up in Ontario, California, and then moved to Redlands, California when I was 10 years old. Those are not San Diego, just to give you a reference point. I grew up in a 900 square foot home, mostly with two parents who didn't make a lot of money. My mom was a special ed teacher, and my dad was an electrician for the school district. So we had very little money in the household with a twin sister and a half brother. And so soccer was my outlet, it was my ability to express myself. Never could I have imagined at that time, especially when Major League Soccer didn't exist, there was no soccer on TV, that it would end up like this. So it became just a love. There was no end game for me. But because of that, and I think it's part of what we're missing a lot now in young athletes, I just went out and played soccer every day. There was, until I was about 17, I only had organized practice at most twice a week. So think about that for a second. Now everybody's kids go to practice 5 days a week. They play on Saturday, and then Sunday they don't do anything. I had at most 2 times a week that I practiced organized. The rest of it was just outside playing for 3, 4, 5 hours at a time. And it wasn't just soccer. It was playing whatever was in season at the time. So when the NBA started, I'd play that. When Wimbledon was on, we'd play tennis. When Major League Baseball started, we'd do that. When the NFL was around, we'd do that. And so that was the secret recipe, which is not that secret and not that exciting a recipe, but that's how it worked. So it was a unexpected journey, but a very genuine path, I guess. There was nothing prescribed for me to end up where I've ended up, but it's been a long, fun ride.
If you had to rank your other sports in order, I'm assuming you think you're best at soccer. Am I getting that part right?
Uh, yeah, just because of the hours I put in, yeah.
So like, what else is on the podium? What's second and what's third?
So right now, all I do is play tennis. So tennis would be second now. My brother and I, for about 6 or 7 years, played ping pong every day for 2 or 3 hours after school. So we're pretty good at ping pong. After that, I don't really practice any other sports now. So the rest would be further down the peg.
But growing up, so like you said, it's your
Yeah, it was probably basketball because we had a basketball hoop outside and really tall. So it was really good sport for me to choose. I didn't play baseball much just because we never really got into baseball. We would play like pickle, if anyone ever played pickle. We'd play pickle outside and that kind of stuff, or play home run derby and stuff like that. But we never really played baseball. But I think baseball is a sport I probably could have been decent at least in the field. But mostly we played soccer, we played basketball, and then we just mess around with it. We'd play golf in the backyard if we could, and just play different sports in a abbreviated fashion.
so like your love of it sounds like growing up, like just the love of the game is what drove you. But 17 rolls around, and you said like that's when was there like did someone see you play?
Yeah.
Were you
So what happened, this is crazy because this would never happen now. So when I was 15, my manager of our club team, not the coach, but the guy who managed it, who was literally a godsend. He used to drive all over Southern California to pick up all of us, take us to practice, and then drive us home. So you can imagine what that would be like at 4 p.m. in Southern California, driving to Southgate, to Redlands, to Burbank, to Anaheim, out to Altaloma where we trained, and then back everywhere. He said there was something called ODP, Olympic Development Program tryouts, happening one weekend, and none of us knew anything about it. And he said, "Why don't you guys go out and try out?" And I said, "That sounds boring. Like, this is my off weekend. I'd rather just go kick the ball against the wall in the backyard and play with my friends." And he said, "Well, it should be fun because all you do is play all weekend. You're just on a team and you play games and they watch you." And I said, "Oh, okay, I can do that." So I went to this tryout, which was like our district right around where I was, probably like 9 or 10 cities right around where I lived, and did well in the tryout. And from there, got invited to the Southern California state team tryout up in Bakersfield. So a few months later, I went to that tryout, and it was perfect timing for me because it was right as I was like just finishing going through puberty. So I was very skinny when I was young, very skinny, mainly because we didn't have a lot of food to eat, but I was very skinny. And I went through puberty and like started to bulk up and actually grew into myself and got faster and stronger physically. So I remember being in that tournament, or in that weekend in Bakersfield, and for the first time feeling like I was like actually strong enough to compete. Did well on that tryout, made the Southern California youth team, or Southern California state team. From there, went to Bozeman, Montana to try out for the Western regional team, made that team, and then from there went to, I believe, Pensacola or Cocoa Beach, Florida, to try out for the under 17 youth national team. So that was sort of my pathway to get there. But it was very close to never happening because I almost didn't go to that tryout.
And how much time was between the first tryout and that last tryout?
9 months to a year is my guess.
And so people are like, "Who's this? Who's this guy?" Or was that soccer back then?
Yeah, at the time, our country's so massive, right? And at the time, the scouting networks were not what they are, so nobody knew anybody, right? I mean, you didn't know anybody until they showed up on your radar. So, I'm guessing at some point a few of the coaches were like, "Whoa, where did these few kids come from?" Those of us who ended up making it all the way to the national team. But that was the process by which you got scouted at that time. Now, 8-year-olds are being scouted and talked about online, but at that time nobody knew who anybody was.
Yeah, what drove you to keep pushing? Was there anything that just kept you going?
Yeah, how deep do you want to get?
Let's do it, man.
All right, so my motivation stemmed. I don't want to get too, philosophical, but through years of therapy, I've realized that my motivation came mostly from wanting acceptance and wanting to create an identity for myself and wanting to be seen, basically. A lot of that came, my parents divorced when I was 2, and so we lived with my mom, and because my dad had his own hardships, we didn't get to see him a lot. And so in retrospect, when I look at it, I think about myself going through that time. I was so driven to be accepted and recognized, and soccer gave me that. I have very vivid memories of being like 8 years old in a tournament final, youth club tournament final, and scoring a goal. And I'm getting chills now thinking about it, and running down the sideline and having people cheer. And for me, it had nothing to do with soccer. It had nothing to do with loving soccer. It had to do with being accepted, right? And feeling like I was creating an identity for myself. And so that's what kept me going and driving me throughout. The flip side of that, of course, is that in my late 20s, I came to a point where I realized this was my only identity. And I didn't know who I was without that. So it was a survival mechanism and got me through a heavy portion of my life, but ended up being a downfall too, until I came to grips with who I actually was as a human being.
I think that takes a lot of courage, obviously, to be able to look at yourself in the mirror and hold yourself accountable. And just was wondering, are there other moments throughout your career or life that you've had to show a lot of courage to get through something?
Sure. Yeah, there are quite a few. One that comes to mind quickly is when I had first moved to Germany when I was 17 to play, I didn't end up playing. And so I had some really hard conversations with my agent at that time about maybe not playing anymore. As I said before, I only played soccer because I actually loved playing soccer. I didn't do it for money or fame or anything else. I just loved playing. So when I went to Germany and didn't have the opportunity to play, I had some really, really hard moments where I thought about just not doing it. I just figured life was too short to be doing something you're not enjoying. And fortunately, my agent was able to get me an offer in Major League Soccer to come back and play in Major League Soccer. So I I took the chance, hoping that things would be different, and they were. But there was another pretty important moment in my life after the 2006 World Cup. I had played really poorly, and I remember coming home to headlines and talk on TV about how I'd let the team down and I'd let the country down, and it was the first time in my career that I had had real criticism of my people had criticized me, because at that point I was sort of the young kid who got all the accolades and was exciting story for US soccer and all that. And unfortunately, that all changed quickly, and you realize in that moment that if your identity is wrapped up in who you are as a soccer player and that unravels, what do you have left? Right. And the answer for me was nothing, because that's all I was. That's what I was wrapped up in. So I had another really hard time. I remember for a couple of weeks I was really depressed and contemplated just not playing. And it was as much to do with the criticism as it was to me not performing the way I knew how I could perform. So I one day, after a few weeks of wallowing in self pity, I decided that I was either to not play anymore, or if I was going to keep playing, to never perform that way again. And that was sort of the commitment I made to myself at that time.
How does one remind themselves when they're about to step onto the pitch of that?
Um, there are a lot of ways. I worked through that a lot with my therapist, right? Because there are also times where you're just not motivated to play for whatever. It's the middle of the summer. You've played 18 games in a row. It's a Wednesday night in a stadium that's a third full, and you're tired and worn out from all the travel and all the media interviews and appearances. And so how do you get that motivation? For me, process and structure around the week and the game helped me a lot. So routine would help me to put my mind in a place where I knew it was time to perform. So on almost every game day, I would have a very specific routine, and it got me prepared to perform for those 90 minutes. Most of the time, the games were motivation enough, but it was the training and the travel and the appearances and the media, those things really wore me down over time. So that was where I had to keep finding the motivation.
I was just going to ask, I mean, having that experience has to have helped you in being a coach now, and helping lead your team. Just wondering,
Well,
because it does get tiring, right? So
sure.
how do you keep your team motivated?
Yeah, in any walk of life, right? I mean, people from the outside see the glamour, but they see the Saturday night. They don't see the Monday through Friday and what you have to do to have yourself ready to compete at that level. Um, it's helped me tremendously. I think the biggest takeaway I have from my career is, and what I look back, how I think I can be most effective is by having real compassion for each player. And so to have real compassion, you have to get to know the player, right? So I had a really good conversation last week with one of my players, and learn more about his life and his childhood and what it was like growing up in Africa and why he's motivated to play. And when you understand them at that level, when they have a bad day in training, or they have a bad game, and you can tell there's something going on, you don't have to guess anymore, right? You know what's going on. And so you can go to them during training and say, hey, it looks like something's bothering you. Does this something back home? And they can have that connection where they can say yes. And you can say, okay, just take the day off today. And having that level of compassion really helps so that the players know you actually really care about them.
And I didn't mean to land in like the land of leadership for myself, but I find myself doing a ton of leadership work. And like that exact story is what we're asking leaders to get to know about their employees. Like, do you actually know your people? Have you asked them how their day is? Have you, do you actually care about them? And yeah.
No, it sounds easy, Ryan. And like, it's why I appreciate what you do and what you guys, when you speak to us, there are tactical things, right? Companies can do better or leaders can do better. There are, you can set your office up in a way that it makes it more conducive to work in a great work environment or culture. But do you actually care about someone, right? And you can pretend you care about people. Do you show it every day? And I'm not like, this is not data driven. This is not statistic driven. I just know when you treat people the right way, you can also then be harder on them. You can demand more of them. You can expect more of them. You can hold them accountable more because they know you're trying to help them. I'm not out here doing what I do every day because I'm making a gazillion dollars or because I'm getting famous because of it or because I get something selfish out of it, except that it feels good. They genuinely know that I want them to do better and be better. And when you do that, you can yell at them, you can be really honest with them and have hard conversations, but they know you care. And I think it's, again, I always use this analogy, but it's analogous to parenting, really. If your kids know you care about them, you can be really honest with them, and that's okay.
You had mentioned, in some of the work that we did, like you had clarity in your purpose. Do you mind sharing that with the group?
Sure. Was my purpose around this?
Yeah.
Yeah. So when I retired, I was in search of passion, right? And as someone who's dealt with depression throughout their life, my therapist often would say to me, make sure you find your next passion when you're done playing. Because if you don't have that passion, someone as driven as I am, I'm going to struggle, right? I can't sit home every day with nothing to do. And so she would say, you need to find it. You need to find it. The hard part is I've never practiced anything else except soccer my whole life. So it's like, how do you find that passion? Well, the way you find it is by trying things. So there are a lot of things I tried. Some I was good at, some I was not, some I liked, some I didn't like. I was searching for that passion that made me get up every day and be motivated to help. And what I came to, and it was, not to blow smoke, but as you would speak to us about all these things, I started thinking about my personal culture internally, my personal mission. What is it about all this that I actually care about? So I started to peel away all the layers of the onion to get to the core. Why am I doing this? Like, why is it important to me? What matters about this? And it just came out of my mouth one day at the very end of our session. I said, really, when I boil this down, and I think our staff probably feels the same way here at SD Loyal, is we're just trying to positively impact people's lives. I mean, when you just peel away all the other crap, all I'm trying to do every day is go out and make a positive impact on these young men's lives, on our staff's lives, on my family's life. That's what I am trying to do. And so if you use that as your guiding light, you're probably gonna come out on the right side most of the time. And that's, I don't know where, it was just through you talking and leading us through some things that came very clear to me. So I'm very appreciative for that. Thank you.
Oh man. Well, speaking of you positively impacting my life, in a on surface level, can we go back to June 23rd, 2010? Because we're officially 2 months away from the decade anniversary.
Oh, that's right.
Of your your goal, the goal of all goals. So like, by the way, I don't know why I never connected this, but it's interesting to hear you say that coming off of the '06, the criticism that came in '06, and then the absolute next opportunity you had to shine. I mean, I can't think of a single goal that's as big as the goal you had in the 90th minute against Algeria. So not a small moment for the U.S. And you talked about, I still get chills. I'll watch a video of like all the bars watching that moment. Like at the time, did you know like, oh, this is a serious moment, or were you just like, okay, thank goodness we scored, we're moving on?
No, you don't. It's hard to know that in that moment, right? One, because we're just doing our job. I mean, it's a kind of a half-hearted way of saying, but it's the truth. I mean, we were all doing our job to get us across the finish line to make it into the next round. So the other piece is we were halfway across the world. I mean, we were almost literally as far as we could be away from the States in South Africa. So and the internet wasn't what it is now. So it was hard to really get a grasp of what that meant back home. But that game kind of took you through the emotions of why you love sports, right? There was everything at stake, all these ups and downs. They hit the crossbar early in the game. We score a goal that's called offside, but is actually a goal. We have tons of chances. Clint Dempsey hits the post. It's up and down, back and forth. And so you're just riding this roller coaster with the players in the game. And then we're riding that roller coaster as players, but there was almost as much relief as there was joy in that moment, because we expected to get through to the next round, but you can't possibly understand how the ripple effects are going to matter for years, actually. And this is a weird way to say it, but I come across a lot of, I guess it would be 10-year-old kids now who are named Landon or Dempsey or Donovan, and it's pretty remarkable, but it's true, and you see it in that way too.
No Bermans or Thompsons, no Bermans or Thompson.
No, not yet. Maybe after this podcast.
So when you're in extra time, which is, what was it, fourth minute of extra time, or was it the 90th minute? It was like
maybe the second minute.
As you're going through, you can feel the pressure of the time, probably, like, time is running out, but are you extracting the emotional side of you just to stay focused on what you have to do?
Well, you're just playing the game you know how to play, right? So it's just practice. You've done it so many times, but you're very aware of the urgency, right? So you don't know exactly when the ref's going to blow the whistle because you don't have a clock, but you know that your next chance might be your last, right? And so you have to approach it that way, that you're probably going to get maybe one more chance at best, and you've got to take advantage of it. So there's a lot that went into that play to make it successful. And if it doesn't happen exactly that way, the odds of us scoring go down significantly. So it was really a group of 11 players doing what they had to do, because what people forget about that, they had a chance to score right before we scored, and a better header, and they score. And what about 5 of us did from about the 80th minute on is we just cheated. We just cheated up the field and waited to let the game open up, because we had to score. A tie did us no good. So the 5 guys and our goalkeeper in defense had to do a lot of work that nobody ever talks about, but it doesn't happen if they don't do that job.
But when that ball's like, it's a sitter, I mean, it's rolling towards you, coming back from the goalie, like the 6-yard box. Sorry, I can geek out about this stuff. I love this stuff. So like at that point, are you like, oh, this is mine? Or are you like, just stay focused? What's going through your brain?
Yeah. So I just watched this great documentary called In Search of Greatness. They interview Wayne Gretzky, Jerry Rice, Pele, and they talk about that. Those guys talk about how the play would slow down, right? Like you were seeing things at such a high level that things would slow down. And in that moment, it was this mix between everything slowed down, like frame by frame in my head, but it also wasn't so slow that I had to think about it, right? Because if you think about it, yes, it's a 6-yard pass into the goal, but I've seen people miss that, right? And so, or hit it into the defender, or hit the post, or kick it over. So it was just fast enough where I didn't think about it, but just slow enough where it just rolled sort of rotation by rotation right onto my foot as I got there.
And so then you take off to the corner for a little celebration. Are you relieved? Are you like, yeah? Where's your head go then?
Yeah, I hope John, while you're doing this, can like splice in the video. You guys got to pay for the rights though. So the ESPN, I think. So yeah, so I turn the corner because I'm running at full speed, remember? And I turn the corner and I look down at our sideline and I see Stuart Holden, who's now a commentator for Fox, off the bench already heading to the corner flag. So it was almost like this. We saw that we were going to meet at the same time and I saw everyone behind him jumping off. And then it was you just react. I mean, there's no plan. You just react. And it was a little wet on the field, so I figured I'm just going diving into the corner. But there's this moment where I get claustrophobic in situations like that. So I slide and I'm excited. And you can barely see if you watch the clip closely at the end. I have this moment where I'm like, oh shit. Because I know everyone's piling on and I'm going to be at the bottom. And I remember vividly being at the bottom going, okay, get off me, get off. And fortunately, I was able to not hyperventilate.
Amazing.
Talk about that for a second, like just dealing with fears and anxiety, because like part of courage is getting past, fear, and you talked about finding purpose and passion. So I think, that's a big thing that people deal with, is just jumping off the ledge sometimes, and you coming out of a career and finding a new career. How have you dealt with fear throughout your life and got past that?
For whatever reason, this is a really good question because I've never thought about this, but I don't live with much fear in anything I do. And I think as I'm thinking through it, I think because of lots of years of therapy, but also from meditation, fear comes from, as I'm thinking through this, like I'm some expert, fear comes from something that happened in the past or worrying about something that might happen in the future. Right. And so I now subconsciously live pretty present in every moment. I'm not perfect, but I live pretty present. And that's what meditation does, is it just brings you back to right now. This is the only moment that ever is and ever will be. And the next moment's the same, and the next moment's the same. So I think if you live in that space, you're not worried about, oh, I had this same ball rolling out to me 6 years ago and I hit it over the crossbar. You're just in that present moment of what I should be doing. And you're also not worried about, oh my God, if I miss this, what's going to happen? Right. So I've been very fortunate to not live in that space. Now, I will say I was riding my bike yesterday, now that I have 3 young kids, and I haven't rode a bike in probably 7 years. And so I didn't realize that I should be wearing a helmet. And I had a moment where I saw a bunch of bikers, like real bikers, riding their bikes with helmets on. And I had this moment as I'm out on the street, like, oh my God, what if something happens to me? And my mind just went like, oh, so I'm not immune to it. And that's sort of a seemingly innocuous, well, could be very dangerous, but example. But it shows you where your mind can go if you're not staying present. So that's how I've always, I think, subconsciously dealt with it, but I don't live in a state of fear most of my life, which I'm very thankful for.
You talked a little bit about your family and kids, so I was just wondering how that's been for you. And I assume like you made a reference to parenting and coaching, so I assume like you've taken some lessons from being a parent into your career now.
Yeah. The only fear I have now is that I'll leave my kids on a street corner and never see them again, because I'm pretty fed up with them right now. They are the love of my life, but they're very difficult. However, I will say this, they teach me a lot that I take into my managing career with SD Loyal. You have to be incredibly patient with children, and you have to be patient with the male ego in professional sports. I feel like when I get home every night, I am managing my children. That is the way I feel every night, is you are thinking about every word that comes out of your mouth, how it's going to impact them. And not only how it's going to impact them in the moment, but in years going forward. My son one night, my oldest son, we were cutting his toenails and he was like didn't really want to do it. And I said, Talon, it's really important we cut your nails because we don't want you to get a nail ingrown into your skin because that could really hurt. And like 2 weeks later, he woke up and he had a nightmare that his toenail grew into his skin. And I was like, oh man. So like, you don't even think about it in the moment. You're just trying to get him through getting his toenails cut, but how that impacts people. So that's been a big learning lesson is I'm constantly doing it. I do it in my job and then I do it at home where you're managing every moment to make sure that you're saying the right thing and doing the right thing. And you don't get it right. I mean, all the time. That's parenting is making errors, but you try your best. So
Landon, how old are the kids?
I've got a 4-year-old, a 2.5-year-old, and a 1-year-old.
And you're enjoying this parenting period?
I'm not sure that's the adjective I would use. I'm not. There are moments that are very fun, yes, but at this age, they're the two olders are boys and the youngest is a girl, and they're at each other's throats quite a bit. But in the nice moments, it's a lot of fun. Yeah.
You talked about identity. Is there any part of your that you claim now as dad, and that's the identity that you take?
Yeah, and I think especially being having grown up with my dad not around a lot and my mom working a lot, I notice myself feeling really guilty when I'm not around my kids a lot. And I have to remind myself that I'm around them more than 99% of dads, especially, and most parents. I think the important thing I've learned with kids, I don't know how you guys feel, but when you're with them, to be present. So it could be 20 minutes a day, it could be 2 hours a day, 4 hours a day, 6 hours a day. As long as you're very present when you're with them, that's all kids care about. And they get used to whatever the normal is, right? So if I'm gone from 7 to 4 every day, that's kids, they adapt, right? But as long as you're present when you're with them, that's what they care about.
Yeah, I have a little equation. Attention plus belief equals good stuff.
There you go.
So now you've got how many kids? You've got all these other kids that you're respecting.
26.
How many?
26.
How many of them don't speak English?
2 do not speak any English. They're learning, and 2 others speak okay English.
So how is that? Is like just part of the deal in coaching now? How do you communicate?
Yeah, it's in some countries it's a huge deal, right? So fortunately we have players that are also fluent in French and Spanish, or there's one French player and one Spanish player. And so we have players that speak those languages, so they help. It is challenging though, and it makes you realize in other parts of the world, I don't understand how a coach, a Brazilian coach will come be a manager of a French team and they don't speak French. And so I just don't understand how you could, through a translator, get everything across that you wanted to get across. I feel like that would be so difficult. So it's challenging. What the French player in particular, I don't speak French. I speak some Spanish, so I can help the Spanish speaking player, but the French player, I don't speak any French. So getting across some ideas to him is very difficult. And so you have to put a big emphasis on making sure that he is learning English as fast as possible, because that can mean the difference between him playing and thus making it or not.
You have anything else to add? I mean, this has been awesome.
I mean, I got a lot to add, but it'll take all day.
I think we appreciate your time, man. It's nice to get to know the human part of Landon Donovan and learn that you've got stuff you're dealing with just like everybody else, and you also found a genuine purpose. And to me, having that clarity probably makes it, at least even though you're in quarantine, when we come out of this, are you coaching through Zoom right now? How are you connecting with the players, by the way?
There's not a ton. We don't have a ton of data. We had 2 games, right? And most of our players played in the 2 games. So we really only have 1 game for each of our players that we can even show them anything, so there's not a lot to go from. So there's not a whole lot we can do, but I was just going to say, it's finding a purpose. It's the question we all probably ask ourselves as human beings at some point, what is our purpose? Why are we here? But what you do, or or what you guys do on a daily basis with people and with companies, I think is so important for us to do as human beings, because it's no different when you come to SD Loyal and you say, SD Loyal, what is your purpose? Like, let's put away all the ticket sales and the players and the games. Why are you here? And I don't have some miraculous answer as to why I am here on earth, but I do know what my purpose is for myself and what I want to do in my life, right? And so, at least at this time, that could change in a year or 3 years or 5 years. But right now, that is what I come back to. That's my guiding light, right? And that's what you guys do for companies. So it's been really valuable for me to have the opportunity to go inside and figure out what is my exact purpose. I know people who listen to this are some people in leadership positions, probably some powerful people who know what that is for their company, but then what is that for them personally? And I've just found so much value in that, and I'm really appreciative. So thank you.
No, thank you, man. I appreciate it. And yeah, like, this is the time, right? I mean,
That's
clearly,
right.
you know, we're all kind of on a timeout right now. So trying to help people figure out why we exist and like, what do you want to do with your time? And this is it, man. Landon, you're the man. Appreciate it. Thanks so much for coming on the show.
I appreciate you guys. Stay safe.
Join us next week with guest Tahani Jones, former NFL linebacker and serial entrepreneur. If you enjoyed the episode, please give us 5 stars, subscribe, and leave us a comment.